Well, now let's go ahead and take a look at the last example for this particular section. And this problem here is going to be a slightly different feeling sort of a problem. Let's take a look at it. Suppose that f and g are differentiable functions, and that f of x is equal to the square root of x times g of x. So it's square root of x times something. Maybe it's square root of x times sine of x, or square root of x times x squared. Like, I don't know what this g of x function is. But here's what I do know. I do know that if I plug 4 into the g of x function, it spits out 2. And if I plug in 4 to the derivative of the g of x function, it spits out 3. I don't know how in the world that's useful, but apparently it's what I'm told. And my goal in this question is to find the derivative of the function f and evaluate it at 4. Now, a lot of times when people see questions like this, it feels so different to them than like what we did in the last example where I just said, here's a function, calculate the derivative. Now, I can see that this function here actually is really the same thing, right? I mean, it has one thing and another thing that are being multiplied together. And so if I wanted to calculate its derivative, I just have to kind of not be scared or intimidated by the fact that I don't know g of x. So I'm going to start here by just finding f prime of x. In fact, I'll write that out. We start by finding f prime of x. Okay, so f prime of x would be equal to, and I'll just use the product rule here. I'm going to start by just saying, let's leave the square root of x alone, and let's take the derivative of the red thing. I don't know what function that is. The best I can do is say that I'm going to get its derivative, and that derivative is going to sit right there. Then I can reverse the order. This is where I would leave the g of x completely alone, and instead take the derivative of the square root of x, or x to the 1/2. Now, that's going to be 1/2 brought down to the front, and if I had a power of 1/2 and I have to take away 1 from it, I'm over down to negative 1/2. So this is what the derivative looks like. If I wanted to, I could simplify this maybe just a tiny little bit by rewriting the second term here. I recognize this is going to be times 1/2, and if I bring that x to the negative 1/2 to the denominator, I'm going to get a square root of x in the denominator. So there's my derivative. Now my goal, of course, wasn't to just find the derivative. It was to find the derivative and plug in the value of 4. Okay, I still don't see how I'm going to be able to compute that, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'll first just say we now evaluate f prime of x at x equals 4. So I'll do f prime of 4. So that means that I'm going to go to this derivative formula, and anywhere that I see an x, I'm going to replace it with a 4. So that's everywhere, including inside of these g's. Okay, what good does that do me? Because I still can't compute this, right? Like, I know I have 2 here for this square root and 2 for that square root, but what the heck do I do with g prime of 4 and g of 4? Oh. Yeah, obviously that's why I was given this information at the start. So this is an important thing to recognize that is going to happen to you a lot in this class. You may not always know how to fully solve a question right from the start. That's okay. Instead, what you want to focus on is, what do I know and what can I write? I want to treat these problems like a puzzle. I'm going to put together the pieces that I can, and hopefully I'll figure out how to use extra information as I continue to move on. So notice here, I can replace g prime of 4 with the value of 3. I can replace g of 4 with the value of 2. Over here, I'm going to get a 1/4 in this guy. So when I simplify this all the way down, I'm going to get 6 plus 1/2. So that's a grand total of 6.5, or if I wrote it as a fraction, 13/2. So there we go. I know that the answer to what is f prime of 4, I could express it as either one of these values. Both are exact. Now, to get more practice on using the product rule, I would highly recommend, again, that you go and you take a look at the worksheet associated with this section, where you can try to practice these ideas and make sure that you are really understanding all of the concepts here. Also keep in mind that this nice derivative rules sheet is very, very useful. I'd recommend having this available, whether you have a printout of it or you just constantly pull it up anytime you're working through videos or on worksheets, because you really need to make sure that you understand these derivative rules so that way you can implement them very, very quickly and efficiently.